So as I sit here recording this, it is the 16th of April. That would be Friday. So tomorrow is Saturday, and we are but a few hours away, well, 24 hours away, from the long-awaited or long-dreaded return of the Daleks. But before that, I have a little bit to say about Doctor Who, and also about Lost, and even a little bit about Ashes to Ashes. So once again, there will not be a review of The Beast Below this week, because that you can find over at behindthesofa.org.uk, but I do have a little bit about that to say, so there will be spoilers in Act 1 for The Beast Below, and then Act 2 will contain candid and spoilery discussions about recent events on Lost, up to the episode Everybody Loves Hugo, and then finally, Act 3 will contain, spoilers, I guess. Yeah, there will be spoilers, but nothing too specific, about the first 2 episodes of the new series, the final series of Ashes to Ashes. So, let's get to it. The Cloister Room with Tom Dickinson. Episode 011. Mo monsters, mo problems. It's the Cloister Room, and welcome to it. I'm Tom Dickinson, Two Eyes No E's, your host, and it's time for Act 1, in which I'll talk about The Beast Below. Now, in my review of the second episode of Matt Smith's first series as the Doctor, one of the things I was quite clear about was how I thought that the Smilers were pointless and unnecessary. And I wondered in that review, as I wonder now, whether the story might work better without them. I mean, they are a great bit of design work by the department who handles those designs, and they look wonderful in HD. The models are very detailed. I liked how the area where the hair would be is these little cogs and gears. But my suspicion is that the only reason they exist in the story at all is because without them, the story would have lacked a real monster. I sort of theorize, I have no real basis for this other than my own pure speculation, but that at one point the story existed without them as a monster and was just about the dilemma of the people of the Starship UK voting to torture this whale. But there's a perception that a Doctor Who story needs a monster, so these were added in at a later stage. But do we need a monster in every story? Some people do seem to think this is the case. Think back to the Christopher Eccleston series from 2005, and specifically the episode Father's Day. When Russell T Davies originally came up with the concept for this story, there wasn't any monster in it. But when he handed it off to Paul Cornell to write it, Paul Cornell came up with the Reapers because he thought the story wouldn't work without a monster. And maybe in that case he was right, for reasons I'll talk about in just a bit. But I don't think it's right to say that every Doctor Who story will always need a monster. One of the defining things about Doctor Who is the versatility of its format. So why would it be the case that we always need a monster, or alien, or a robot, or a creature? With the possible exception of Midnight, which has a monster, but we only see the monster in the form of the person it possesses, Sky Silvestri, every single story since Rose has contained some kind of monster or alien, or robot or creature, or something for the design department to come up with that is clearly not human, whether it be scarecrows, or a time beetle, or a Vinvachi, or a Krillitane, or a werewolf, or whatever. I find this kind of interesting because when you go back to the very beginning of Doctor Who, Sidney Newman originally had a policy that Doctor Who would not contain any monsters. Now, obviously, he ended up being quite wrong because the very second story introduced the Daleks, and you know what? That was right. Doctor Who needs monsters. It needs monsters sometimes. In fact, I'd even go so far as to say it needs monsters most of the time. But I don't think it needs monsters all of the time. If we can do the occasional story without the Doctor himself, then why can't we do one without a monster? Now, maybe back during the planning stages for the 2005 series, when they were planning stories like Father's Day, it did make sense to think that each story needed a monster. After all, they weren't sure Doctor Who was going to succeed at all, so they really didn't have the opportunity to take very many risks. Sticking to that established formula might have seemed like a good idea at the time. Add a monster in, spice up the story, that'll draw people in. But now in 2010, audiences around the world are already drawn in and don't need to be drawn in. The show can, should, and usually does take that as an opportunity to take risks with the storytelling. So why not branch out and take another risk? See if a story will work without leaning on a monster as a promotional crutch. It probably would have made The Beast Below a lot stronger of a story, so I hope they won't shy away from that sort of thing in the future. So that's it for talking about Doctor Who, and that's it for Act 1. I'll be back right after this with Act 2. And now for a brief but terribly urgent interruption.
Look, whenever you see me in this part of the TARDIS pacing up and down like this, be a good chap and don't interrupt me, will you? Unless it's terribly urgent. It's not terribly urgent, is it?
Radio from Garrow.
Hello everyone, this is Stephen Schapansky speaking to you on behalf of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance, or as I like to call it, the Doctor Who Alliance of Podcasts, because then I can call it DWAP. I'm here to tell you about another Doctor Who signing at Waterston's Lakeside in Turek in England on Saturday, April the 24th between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. The special guest this time round, Nicholas Briggs, voice of the Daleks, Cybermen, the Jadoon, plenty of other voices. I think he was a Nestine Consciousness as well, yes. He'll be there signing copies of his the Big Finish discs, Sherlock Holmes and the Ripper, of which, of course, he plays Sherlock Holmes. As well, he'll probably be signing some of his other Dalek CDs that Big Finish has put out. He'll also have his ring modulator there, so you can hear the sound of the Daleks live and in person. Nicholas Briggs is a fantastic guy. We talked to him at Gallifrey as part of our coverage on Radio Free Skaro there, and he is just a wonderful chap. So you would do very well to go along and meet Mr. Briggs and chat with him about many different things. The Doctor Who Alliance of Podcasts, see, I'm still saying it, they'll be there. They'll be there recording a podcast, just as they were at the recent Colin Baker signing. So that podcast will be out and about for any other member of the DWAP. I think there's about 53 of them now, I think. To be to download on their feeds, or it's open to everyone. It'll be great. I think Tony Galashon from The Flashing Blade will be there. I think Adam Purcell of Staggering Stories, and perhaps many more. I won't be, of course, because I'm in Canada, you see. It's a bit of a commute. So, but you can be. Again, that's Waterstones, Lakeside and Turek, Saturday, April 24th, 2010, between 11 and 1. Meet Nicholas Briggs. So thank you on behalf of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.
Alright, now it's time for Act 2, and it's time for Tom to say some stuff about Lost. So, we're about 2/3 of the way into Season 6 of Lost. No, actually, we're exactly 2/3 of the way into Season 6 of Lost. We've seen 12 televised hours, and there are 6 to go. So, that's exactly 2/3. And I have to say that at this point in the season, I'm a little disappointed, but not that disappointed about this season of Lost. It's not that we haven't seen some excellent quality episodes recently. I mean, Abaturna was great, and so was Happily Ever After. And the reintroduction of Desmond in that latter episode has really gotten things moving again. But now it's starting to seem like it might be too little too late. The thing in this past episode, Everybody Loves Hugo, that got me really angry was the death of Ilana. Not because I liked Ilana, because I did not like Ilana, but it made me wonder why they bothered introducing her character in the first place when she was really entirely useless, and they were just going to kill her off anyway. I mean, what did she do? She explained the concept of the candidates, but I mean, why couldn't Richard have done that? I think Richard knew about the candidates, so I don't see why we needed Ilana at all. The same really goes for the Temple Others, characters like Dogen and Lennon. They got introduced, and they acted all mysterious and important, and they did contribute a little bit because they chucked Saeed into their Lazarus pit or whatever they call it on this show, but suddenly they're killed off in a scene that's very exciting and makes you glad that the story finally seems to be moving again. But it makes you wonder why we wasted time on characters like them in the first place. Ultimately, the Ajira crew, which includes Ilana and Bram and Jacob's quote-unquote bodyguards, and the Temple others, they all ended up being about as useful as the Tailies were in Season 2, with the notable difference that the Tailies were in Season 2, and these characters were in Seasons 5 and 6, when the show was supposed to be barreling forward toward a conclusion. But fine, whatever, that's past us now. As I said, it's not really that big a deal to me. Things finally seem to be getting into position for the ending of the story, which is good because there's only 6 hours left in the show. So let's hope that we're finally going to stop stalling and move for the finish so that we can have a good ending to what is still, even while it disappoints me a bit, one of the best shows on television. So in Act 3 I'll be talking about Ashes to Ashes, but before that, it's time for the Dune Quote of the Week. Climb the mountain just a little bit to test that it's a mountain. From the top of the mountain, you cannot see the mountain. From Muad'Dib, Family Commentaries by the Princess Irulan. Lest I sound like Mr. Negativity this week, I wanted to throw in this really positive discussion of Ashes to Ashes. Now, there's only one real complaint I have. It's that Series 2 ended on an amazing cliffhanger, and the way it's resolved at the beginning of Series 3 is just a bit too quick and dismissive for my taste. But that's really my only complaint about it. I think the new character of Jim Keats is bringing a great new aspect to the storyline and to the mythology as well. Not only is he presenting a new challenge to Jean, Chris, Ray, Alex, and Shaz, but he's also presenting a possible new dimension to the mythology as we begin to wonder what he knows and what he doesn't know about Alex's situation. And it's great to see that the show is revisiting life on Mars while looking in to Sam Tyler's death. I don't know yet if I believe the insinuations that it's making about the causes of Sam Tyler's death, but it's a very interesting take on things, and I'd love to see where they're taking us. I'm really interested to find out more about what happened to Sam Tyler, because John Sim was so great in Life on Mars that I ended up loving the character. But will John Sim show up in Ashes to Ashes Series 3? I'm really hoping that he does. I think that would be fantastic, and it would be the best possible way to end up this story, this whole massive story that connects Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes. But even if he doesn't, it'll still be fantastic, because these episodes, especially the second episode, which focused on Shaz, were just absolutely the best episodes that the series has done so far, in my opinion. So yeah, this is a short segment, but I'm just going to conclude by saying I can't wait to see how all of this plays out. Now, I won't be doing a regular segment on Ashes to Ashes, obviously, because I haven't been doing it up till now, but I might check in again later in the series, and I will definitely talk about it once again when the series wraps up, as I will do a post-mortem on it. So that about wraps it up for this episode of The Cloister Room. We're really at a good time of year for television, aren't we? Doctor Who is on, Ashes to Ashes is on, Lost is on. I mean, what more could a guy want? As always, you can send feedback to feedback@thecloisterroom.com, or you can contact me on Twitter at twitter.com/thecloisterroom. And of course, you can find this podcast, the show notes, and the comments page, where I encourage you to leave a comment if you so choose, at www.thecloisterroom.com. So next week I will be back with another exciting episode in which I talk about Doctor Who, Lost, and possibly something else. But until then, I'm Tom Dickinson, Two Eyes No E's, signing off.